I met her several months before then. I think in the summer before that, their marriage, and she seemed very nice and just a very pretty girl. And you know, she was younger. I think she was 17 years younger than Charles. But he was a very energetic kind of guy, so he kept up with her like, you know, he was absolutely very fit. So, but she seemed nice. She just seemed like a regular, normal person. I mean, I never saw anything suspicious or weird about her at that point. We were super busy with our business, and so we didn't spend a lot of time with them, or you know, it's kind of a touch and go situation visiting with them then. So I just really, I can't really give you a good answer for that.
The answer that I can give you, Gigi, is in talking to Charles. Uh, he was really wanting to blend that family and be happy. And I really think that they worked at it. But when you get teenagers involved in a new marriage and then you bring on a special need child, as JJ was, I'm sure there were some difficulties, but I don't think it took long for that blending to come about.
I remember as he was talking, I remember they had ordered these like parental tutorial type CDs and about teaching kids boundaries and lessons and how to respond to them in positive, you know, keep them in a positive atmosphere. And I remember that, and I remember at that time thinking, wow, they're really working at this. They were
Right.
visiting us one weekend when I saw that. So it was a good good thing, I thought.
Yeah.
I remember one thing specifically. She was just a pretty little girl. Remember, we bought her this really cool swing that was made out of tires, and we sent it to him in Austin because Tylee had 3 big brothers now, so she needed her own little horse swing. So we just had to get that for her, and we sent it, and she loved it. And so we just were wanting to spoil her a little bit, but
And we did.
she was a cute little girl and a beautiful little girl. And I know that she had trouble sleeping at night. I remember that because that continued on till
The end.
the end, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. But she just would stay up till 3 a.m. and then like want to sleep till 12 or 1 or 2 or whatever. And she was kind of like that as a little girl. But you know, I wasn't around her all the time to, you know, say for sure.
The one thing I seen consistent in her was that she had an extremely high energy level. And I think that is the primary reason that she and JJ bonded, because JJ had a supercharged energy. And so the two of them together played, swimming in the pools. Uh, they were they were a good brother and sister, and she loved him.
Yeah, no doubt.
She
And
took care of him.
she sang. She had a beautiful voice like Lori.
She did. Yeah.
And she would sing, and so she was an artistic, not autistic, but artsy kind of girl. And so she went to a school that promoted that type of stuff, and
Right.
I guess she was in her
Late teens.
puberty. Oh my gosh,
Puberty.
the time around puberty, you know, tween time, 12, 13, that time. And she loved her school, and it was all good.
Yeah. And she excelled at it. She was also extremely intelligent too. She was very intelligent.
Yeah.
And she was very independent. That, to me, it was probably one of the things that stood out the most. She was a very independent little girl.
We did not know Tylee went to Idaho. Well, number one, it took us a while to figure out where they went.
Where they were. Yeah.
But when we did find them up there, we didn't know she went, number one. We didn't know. Look, at that time, Charles and Lori were a mess. I'm sorry. At that time, Charles was dead, and they had murdered him. And then I found out from one of the family members that they had moved, and nobody knew where. And anyway, fast forward to the end of October, and that's when we had retained Rich with Brandon, and acquired his services, and he was able to find them around the 1st of November that they were in Rexburg, Idaho. He seemed very quiet. We never really had real conversation, or if it was, he would walk through the kitchen or something, and I'd be there, and I'd be like, "Hey, Alex, do you know where this is?" Or, it was just real topical conversation. But I know that, Lori. It seems like at one time Lori told me that her brother had a drug problem. I don't know. I don't know if he did or didn't.
What she said.
But it is what she said. So, there's that. But other than that, we really didn't have, it wasn't a warm, fuzzy relationship. Now, his brother, Adam, I knew Adam a lot more, and we could have a conversation, but I really didn't see him much after that vacation in 2006 in Florida. He was a little Todd. It was a little mini-me Todd, and which is my son. And we just watched and just waited. We didn't know that social services, we didn't know any of that was social services. Todd nor Mandy ever told us. I don't know if they knew. But, it was around the middle of June of 2012 when social services called and said, "Hey, we want to place him with you, and y'all have, y'all, neither of us have a criminal record or anything like that." And that's some of the things they have to check on before they place a child. And our home was a good home, and clean, and and tidy and well kept. And so we passed their test for for caretakers, and so that's why he was placed with us. In doing that, the day before they were going to release him, they said I needed to come to the hospital. They wanted me to spend the night. They had a little room right off NICU that I could have him in the room with me all night long, because they wanted to work with me and make sure, as a preemie, he would fall asleep taking his bottle, and just little things things to do to get him to wake up and and drink all of his bottle, and things like that. And then that next day, Larry was there to pick us up, and the nurse said, "Okay, well, here," and she came with a wheelchair, and I said, "What are you doing? I can walk." And she said, "Well, it's hospital policy, and you can get in the wheelchair and you can carry him out." And I was like, "Okay." So that was pretty strange, but Larry already had the car seat in the car and everything, and we brought him home. And whew, that was quite a deal, having a brand new little baby, little preemie baby, when we got him home, but we managed through it.
The great thing is, at 65 years of age, I got to be a daddy again. And I was scared. I was extremely scared, afraid of what was ahead. I mean, my children were grown, and Kay's children were grown. So at 65, here I was personally looking at a baby that weighed.
He weighed 2.5 pounds when he was born.
2.5
he was
pounds. So
30. He was born 10 weeks early.
Right, and when we picked him up that night, when we got him that night and put him that evening and put him in the car, he was 4 pounds.
No, he had just broken 5 pounds.
5 pounds.
Yeah.
That's right. And it was like, oh my God, I'm a daddy again.
when they were in Phoenix, I would just run over there and spend a few days, or me and my sister would go, or me and my granddaughter Ashlyn, or me and my mom, just bring whoever wanted to go with me, and we'd go visit. And I'd make trips often over there, but then so there wasn't. I would go for 3 or 4, maybe 5 days. And so, but at that point, Lori would always go do stuff she wasn't able to do because I was there to have JJ, and she could go do stuff she needed to get done. And so she would use that as a break. And then when they moved to Hawaii, Charles and Lori were there. And when I would go, because I would go for a week or 10 days there, and they would, usually out of that time frame, they would go for a couple, 2 or 3 days to one of the other islands and spend some time alone together. And so that's when I got to have one-on-one with him, and that was worth everything. And so, because if she was around or Charles was around, he was distracted, and I had his full attention, and so that was wonderful. But he loved his mother. He was in love with his mother. Little boys should be in love with their mother, and it was very apparent. And she was so good with him, and patient, and she learned about his autism. I mean, I read about it, and she would tell me some things too that I didn't know that. So I mean, we would learn things from each other about it, and she was engaged, she was loving, she was patient, she was everything a mother's supposed to be. And that's, people say, oh, y'all had to see something in her before then. Well, I never did. I never did. Now in 2017 is when I noticed, Larry told me that something was going on. He's like, I just have my guts telling me something's going on. And I'm like, there's nothing going on. They're fine. And then in February of 2018, I had gone to Phoenix. Charles and Lori were going to Hawaii for like 5 days. So I flew there to stay with them while they were gone. And my mom had a really bad stroke the very next day. And I had to wait for them to land in Hawaii so I could get a hold of him because I needed to go home. And anyway, so then, long story short, it wasn't another month later my mom passed, and Lori didn't bother to come to the funeral. And I took that as a huge slap in the face, because that's not what family does, and not when your spouse's mother dies and they are getting along fine and you don't go. I mean, that's just not right. Not in my book anyway. And Charles just made it, something was going on, or she was sick or something. I don't remember. No, but I never said anything to him about it. But I know him. I know he was upset about it because it just wasn't right. And so I never addressed it with him. It was just my issue, and I just left it as my issue. So that was a huge flag to me that something was going on. Huge. And that was March of 2018. At the end of as 2018 progressed, he and JJ were coming. He often came like in July, September, October, November. Well, November we met him we flew to Las Vegas and met him over there. He and JJ met us there, me and Larry and our granddaughter Ashlyn. And so we had Thanksgiving together in 2018, which I'm so grateful for that, because he didn't have a Thanksgiving in 2019. So anyway, in 2018, it was absolutely, and Charles was, I don't recall ever saying anything about it, but it was Larry and I talked about it. I'm like, something is going on, Larry, because he's coming all the time, and it just,
it was all the classic
it
signs.
just, something was wrong, but he
Yeah.
wasn't gonna. Charles didn't complain. He was not a complainer, and so, I wasn't gonna pry, and
I did. I told Charles on numerous occasions, situational awareness, you better find out what's going on. You need to be aware and protect yourself. We had those conversations, and those conversations were pretty well, as Kay just said, Charles didn't express a huge concern. I was concerned to the point I said, Charles, you need a weapon and you need to protect yourself. You don't know what's going on, because we were starting to get some rumors and so forth. But I never anticipated Charles's demise. I never anticipated. I never thought that would happen to him. But I was very situationally aware of for him.
in February of 2019, when he called and said that Lori had left, and because Charles didn't call, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I called Charles when I got a text from Lori, and she said, "Hey, I don't know what Charles is telling you, but it went something. He's having an affair with prostitutes in California and blah, 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 and I have proof. And so me and the kids left, and we're staying at a hotel. I just want you to know." And so, I got that text, and I was like, I showed Larry, I'm like, what is this? And so,
no way.
Of course, I called Charles, and he was just in tears. He was a wreck.
He was a wreck.
I was like, what is going on, man? And so after we talked to him for a while, I said, Charles, I'll be there tomorrow. And because he needed help with JJ. He was a wreck. So I needed to go and help. So I did. And that's when he started telling me about the email, the dance videos Lori was sending to Chad, and she must be seeing this guy Chad Daybell, and blah blah blah, and she doesn't want JJ anymore. And I was like, what? This is crazy. I was like, Charles, are you sure? And I was questioning him, and shame on me, because he was on point, 100%. And but as we talked more, and he started showing me all this stuff, I'm like, Charles, this is enough. She wants out, and you got to let her go. You got to start thinking about yourself and your future and JJ's future. She doesn't want him, so we have to figure out what the best course of action is here for you and JJ. And that's when, back and forth, and that's when we decided, he could move to Houston. We're 2.5 hours away. I could go be there. He was talking about hiring a nanny, and I was like, no. You're not, don't know. I said, I can be there, 3 or 4 days a week whenever you need to go work, and I will be in Houston and stay with JJ while you go work, and then you come home, and I'll go back home. I said, we can work this out, and no, I don't want a nanny raising him, but it's your call, but I am the grandma. I can do this. And I said, and you will feel better. You won't have to worry about it. And he goes, yeah. And I said, and you'll save a fortune, because I'm cheap. I cost nothing. So,
one of the issues that we're so upset about, probably the thing that has hurt us the most in this, besides the death of everyone, is the fact that attorney, Archibald, said that we're not grandparents.
In that yesterday's hearing, yeah.
And that is such an insult. And I hope the judge sees through that. That is we have so many memories, photographs, recordings where Charles, Lori,
All referred to us
all,
as
re-
Mama
all
and
of them,
Papa.
Mama and Papa. And the agreement we had, and we shook hands on it, Charles and I did, when they adopted him, that we would always be the grandparents.